Welcome everyone to the virtual Pack Walker Summit. My name is Rachel Martinez. Myself and my partner Andrew run the Healing Pack. We're a pack walking service here in Los Angeles. We put together this free lecture series for you, and we have a very special guest today, longtime friend and colleague, John from Humble Canine and I Pity the Bull. This is someone who just, wow, like from the moment they hit the scene, really hit the ground running. He's done so much for rescues and shelters, then transitioned into becoming an educator, just really does a lot to support people, is giving his time and energy to donate to chat with you here today about his story. Can't wait to hear what he shares. I'm sure it'll be entertaining. John, without further ado, you may take it away. Let's see here. I might have to ask you to mute. Beautiful.
We good? All right. Rachel, thank you so much. I think I speak for everyone in this group that we all feel very grateful to be part of this. And, there were so many things, so many topics I wanted to touch on. And I just believe I should start from the beginning, because if I start from the beginning, it will make sense as I do more lectures. And the funny thing is, as I was writing down my notes, because I've learned to write notes down so I don't ramble, there were just so many things that happened along the way, which just led to so many other amazing things. So I'll just start from the beginning. Back in, I want to say it was late 2011, I was part of a nonprofit, and we were going to do a cross-country bike ride to raise awareness and funds for this nonprofit. And I didn't know how to ride a bike, like, where you clip in, and I fell off my bike one day, and nothing crazy. I was at a standstill and just couldn't unclip fast enough. And I fell, I got back up, and I rode my bike home, and I woke up 8 hours later on my couch. I didn't think nothing of it, but as the days went on, I started to get progressively worse. And it turns out I received my sixth concussion. Went to the doctor, all that stuff, and I found out that 25% of all people who have multiple brain injuries will have lifelong effects. And I was one of the lucky 25%. I had to see a physical therapist, an occupational therapist, a speech therapist, and a neuropsychologist, because when you've had that many head injuries, they want to make sure that your mental health is pretty stable so you don't do anything dumb. I don't feel at the time I was having any suicidal thoughts, but I was in a really dark place that I wasn't used to being in. I think I was like 35, 36 years old, and as the days went on, I just started having trouble doing the most basic things. Tying my shoes, putting my shoes on, tying my shoes, getting up from my bed to the shower. It was such a task. It was so weird, because my brain knew what to do, but my body, it just wasn't connecting. And so where it took, I don't know, 10 seconds to put my shoes on, it was now taking me 2 to 3 minutes. And that's a long time, and it can be very frustrating. So I was kind of glad I was seeing a psychologist, even though at the time I didn't think I needed one. We spent a lot of time arguing. And one day, she tells me, John, you need to learn to stop and smell the roses. And I was like, I don't know what you mean by that. And she's like, you should get a dog. And I straight up told her, I said, that is the worst advice anyone has ever given me. I was like, you think me getting a dog is going to fix me, and, picking up dog shit is going to be the key to my happiness? And she's like, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just thinking that maybe if you had something to take care of, you'd stop feeling sorry for yourself and stop living in this past life that is no longer available to you. So we argued some more, and I left. And later on that night, I get a knock on my door, and my best friend at the time shows me, I open the door, and she's like, shows me her phone, and it's a picture of a 6-month-old pit bull. And she's like, do you know anyone that wants this dog? And immediately I was like, nope. And she's like, too bad. too bad. I'm like, what do you mean too bad? And she's like, well, if they can't find a home for this dog, she'll go to the shelter. And this is how much I didn't know about rescue at the time. I thought that was a good thing because that's where dogs go to get homes. That's my vision of the shelter. She's like, no, John, she's a pit bull and they will euthanize her. And I'm like, that is the craziest thing I've ever heard. And then in that moment, I had that little voice in my head of my psychologist saying, I need a dog. And I guess that was one of those signs from the universe, right? Because my best friend did not know I had that conversation. So I said yes. And she's like, great, we're going to pick her up tonight. And I was like, holy shit. Okay. I'm not ready for this, but I'm also not working. So let's go get the dog. We got the dog, and it was this cute little 6-month-old Pitty. Her name was China at the time, and I changed her name to Penny Lane. And during this time, I was researching all the stuff about pit bulls, and it just led me down this rabbit hole. And it was this whole world of discrimination and unfairness that I was completely unaware of. And yeah, it was at the same time, I had this dog that at the time was kind of doing the things that the negative stereotypes that they say these dogs do. And so with whatever money I had left, I hired a trainer. And it was one of those things where dog's good with the trainer, and then the trainer leaves and everything just goes to shit. And I was thinking that this was the worst mistake I ever made in my life. But I had committed to this dog and I was just going to follow it through because also there was really nothing happening in my life. And so I just kept working with this dog and working with this dog. And one day my trainer says, John, what are you scared of? I'm like, I'm not scared of anything. And he's like, something's wrong because your dog is telling me or telling you that something's wrong every time I leave. And I had to do some deep diving. And I really think I was just more depressed than I actually thought I was. Um, if we rewind a little bit, I was on all sorts of medications for my head. So I was on I had a scopolamine patch. I had, antidepressants. I had all these pills and nothing was really working. And I was just getting, with one pill, you get a side effect and then they give you another pill to counteract that side effect. And next thing you know, you just feel like you're taking all these pills to just counteract all these side effects. And I remember sitting with my neurologist and he wasn't even looking at me. And I was trying to tell him how I was feeling. And he was just on his computer, just typing stuff. And I walked out and I just stopped taking all the meds. So now I don't have any meds. I'm taking care of this dog that I don't know how to take care of. And the funny thing is, getting a dog with no job and being disabled is like the worst idea ever now that I think about it. But I'm glad I did it. And, I just kept going on this journey and I just kept working with the dog like my trainer told me. And I just kept doing it and doing it and doing it. And I finally got to a place where everything seemed cool. But I was still feeling a certain way. And it was not until one day I was trying to get up because I had to walk my dog because that's what you're supposed to do. And I couldn't tie my shoes. I was getting so frustrated. And I remember looking over at Penny and she was just sitting there waiting for me, right? No pressure, just waiting. And that was a lesson that I didn't realize I would need later when I started working with dogs. And I'll never forget how patient she was with me, waiting for me to tie my shoes. And that was probably that day was the best walk we had ever had. And I took a deep breath and I just did it. I don't know how long it took me, way longer than I wanted it to. And that was one of the very first lessons Penny ever taught me. And from that day forward, things just seemed to be going smooth. And I was still without a job. I was still not in a good place. Overall, the things in my life that was going on, it just didn't feel good. And I remember sitting there one day, what would I do for free? for the rest of my life. And I looked over at Penny and I was like, oh my gosh, dogs. I would work with dogs for free for the rest of my life. So I found a rescue, local, Priceless Pets, Chino Hills. And I signed up to volunteer. And as soon as they found out I had a pit bull, they gave me all the pit bulls to work with. And because at the time, it seemed like there was not a lot of people physically equipped to handle these dogs. And, they didn't know I had a head injury. So I just started walking these dogs and it felt really good. And, eventually I just started writing about my journey on social media. And it was getting a lot of traction. And I wasn't really paying attention. Then my buddy calls me one day and he's like, you should start a blog. And I was like, that is a horrible idea. I don't have time to write a blog. And he's like, but you already do it. It's just on someone else's platform. And he's like, I will make your website for you for free. And so he's like, I just need you to write 10 blogs and then give them to me. And he's like, you have time because you're not doing anything. And I was like, fine. And I did it. And I sent that to him and he's like, you need a blog name. You need a website name. And I was like, I don't know. I have no idea what to call it. And then I was talking to my other friend, Sippy, and he's like, what about I Pity the Bull? And I'm like, that's a horrible name. Horrible name. But at the same time, I was looking it up on my phone to see if it was available on namecheap.com. And I went with that. Launched a blog. My buddy, he set it all up for me. And that became my journey on advocacy. And it felt good. I had an audience and I was just starting to feel real good. And I was finally able to share my experiences with this breed that was so discriminated against. But the only problem was I was only sharing the good stuff. By now I had been fostering. So I had a dog named Elvis that I wasn't really sure I was going to keep, but we were fostering. And anything bad that happened, anytime one of my dogs got into an altercation, I left that out because I didn't want to ruin the image that I was setting up for my dogs. And one day, my foster and the dogs, they all got in a fight. And I'll never forget, it was NBA Finals, and it was when Cleveland came down from 3-1 and beat the Warriors. I'm not even a fan of either team, but I remember getting really excited, and all the dogs got in a fight. And I sprained my MCL. It was a mess. I got bit. Penny bit me on my wrist. And I don't know what got into me, but I just decided to write about it and blog about it and post about it. And it was that moment that I started getting messages from people saying they felt relieved because they were believing I had perfect dogs while their dogs were menaces, for lack of a better word. And I realized it was okay to not be perfect, but still show your dogs, to show something you're passionate about in a positive light. And from that day forward, I just, whatever happened, I would just write about it. I didn't even care anymore. And so I took in a foster, right? I took in my second, third foster, and it was this Corso, very, like, he was like 30 pounds. They found him out in Moreno Valley, and I nursed this dog back to health, and he ended up being like a 135-pound Corso, huge dog. I took this dog to a adoption event, and I was just hanging out, and this little girl comes up, little tiny blonde girl comes up to me, and she's like, "Can I pet your dog?" And I was like, I guess, right? And she's hanging out, she's petting this dog, and she's hanging out for a real long time, to the point to where I was like, "Hey, little girl, you need to go find your mom." And I was like, "Hey, who's responsible for you?" And she's like, "Oh, my mom and my grandma." And I was like, "Okay, so you should go find them. Okay, you should just go find them." And then she left. But before she left, I took a picture of her with the dog and I posted it. And her mom reshared that photo, or she commented on it or something. And that little girl's mom ended up being my wife. Um, about a year and a half later, we started dating. It was just, the universe was just hitting me with all sorts of things. Along that fostering line, I had someone approach me and ask if they wanted to send me to a thing called Training Caesar's Way. And it's for those of you that don't know, it's like a workshop that Caesar puts on, and they're like, hey, I'll pay for you to go here so that you can become a better foster. And my first answer was, nope, don't want to go. It just seems like a lot to do, and I have already seen the dog whisperer, so what more do I need to learn? And they actually had to talk me into it, and I ended up going, and I took another foster, Fletcher, with me in hopes that he would get adopted. And when I got to Training Caesar's Way, I realized I didn't know shit about shit. I was just getting lucky. I was just getting lucky and getting by. And still then, I was hanging out with all these trainers and learning all this stuff, but I had no desire to become a trainer. I just wanted to rescue dogs. That's all I wanted to do. And you know, I came home from that, and I was at an adoption event, and this girl walks up, and this I'm smoking cigarettes at the time, so I'm just taking a break, smoking a cigarette out front. And this girl gets out of her car and she's walking up, and I was like, it looks like she's walking towards me. And she was. And this girl walks up to me and she's like, do you train dogs? And I was like, no, I actually don't. And she's like, will you train my dog anyway? And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not a trainer. I can maybe find you one. She's like, no, I read your blogs and I like what you post on social media, and I want you to train my dog. And that girl ended up being Eleanor. Right. And if you don't know Eleanor, she is our one and only employee at Humble Canine, and she's been with us for about 6 years. Again, it's just the universe hit me with all sorts of stuff. So I'm training dogs for, like, I don't know, damn near free. But every time someone asks me, I think at one point I was charging $20 a session. And I was just so happy anytime someone asked me, because I was doing this for free. So $20 to do a session was pretty great for me. And sorry, hold on. So what was I saying? Oh yeah. So I am now training dogs under low key, but I don't really want to say I'm a trainer, because I have met so many amazing trainers that, like, I didn't want to disrespect them. So I just kept it on the down low. But for whatever reason, people were finding me, and you know, just I didn't believe in myself. I was just like, I'll never be these people. I'll never be them. So do not disrespect them and call yourself a trainer. Right around that same time, I'm seeing these posts by Zach Scow doing positive change. And for those that don't know, it's this prison program where you teach they pull dogs from a high kill shelter, and they bring them into the prison, and they teach the inmates to work with the dogs, but they also teach them the skill to become a dog trainer. And for some reason, I was just gravitated towards that. And I texted him and I was like, hey man, I want in on this. And sure enough, he was like, yeah, just come down. And I ended up being part of this as a trainer, even though I wasn't a trainer. And I was around some of the best trainers I've ever been around. And it was such an experience, just watch everyone work and still share what I knew with these guys. And it is probably one of the best experiences I've ever had. The prison was about 3.5 hours away each way, or 2.5 each way, for a 2-hour class. Right. So I was on the road sometimes, depending on traffic, between 5 to 8 hours a day just to do this 2 hour class. And it was it was amazing. And even then, I wasn't calling myself a trainer, but so much has happened at this time. Bria's moved in. Um, we're having a baby. We're having a son on the way, and I can't just make $20 on a session and try to provide for my family. But also, I can't find a job because I'm still legally declared disabled by the state of California, and I can't get a regular job. So I'm like, screw it, man. Let's just try this. And then I just started putting myself out there a little more, kind of like old school, like how you used to promote parties back in the day, making flyers, basically just out there, just hustling people to see if they need help with their dogs. And it got to the point where I needed a name. I needed to take this a step further, and I need a training name. And I was going through all these training names and all this, and nothing seemed to click. And at that time, Kendrick Lamar had a song. I forget what the name of the song is. I don't. But he just kept saying, "Be humble, sit down, be humble, sit down." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, humble canine." And I launched that, and I was so scared to post on social media that I was starting my own training company because again, I didn't want to disrespect the people that had taught me all these things. But I went ahead and did it, and Humble Canine has been around now since 2019, and it is more successful than I could have ever imagined. And it is coming from something that I wanted to do for free. I genuinely love what I do. I love helping people. I love helping dogs. I love it all. But I love the people aspect of it a little bit more than the dog part. Penny saved me in a way where you hear this all the time, but she wasn't my pincushion. She taught me accountability and follow through, and you know all of these things that I needed at that time to get out of that dark hole. And somehow I found myself in a position to help people in that same way. And I know if Penny could talk, she would never expect a thank you ever. But this is how I thank her in my own way, by helping dogs and helping people keep their dogs. Um, like I said, there's just so many avenues of what I can talk about, which will come in other lectures. But my why was never because of money. It was never because I want to get rich off training dogs. I never looked at it that way. But this career choice, which took me almost 40 years to stumble onto, has allowed me to take care of my family and still rescue dogs and still go into the schools and teach the kids. And I think the hardest part of my life right now is just finding that balance between work and family. And again, that's another lecture topic. Bree, my wife, we work together. We are husband and wife. We're parents. There's a lot there. It's a whole nother lecture, you guys, which I will talk about. But the beginning matters for me. My why matters for me when it gets tough. When I'm having a hard time, I always remember where I was. And remembering where I was and remembering I was a beginner at one point, it really helps me with people during consultations and when I meet with them, because at one point I didn't even know what rescue was. I didn't know what a slip lead was. I didn't know about pack walking. I didn't know any of this. And just because I know it now, it doesn't, I do my best to not try to project that onto people to make them feel dumb for not knowing it. And it really helps me come from a place of empathy for people, because a lot of times people just don't know. I know we want to dismiss people and be like, oh, they're pieces of shit. they don't they don't care, or I can't believe they would do that with their dog and all that. But I come from a place where sometimes they just don't know. And if I could just make them aware of another way to do things, now they know. Now they know, and they have a choice. And forever and ever, no matter how good I get at this, I will forever be a student to the dogs. Forever. And I will never stop learning. And there's always something to learn. And even people I don't agree with, their philosophy or their styles or whatever, there's always something to learn. And I think that's what keeps me, it's what keeps me going. It's what keeps me grounded. And it is, again, I would do this for free forever. And that's where it started. And that's about it. I have so much to talk about. I could probably go on for like 4 hours and you guys would just all log off. And I would just be sitting here talking to myself. But just remember, everyone with information, everyone that shares information with you, you can learn from that. If you dismiss what people tell you, if you dismiss what your clients tell you about their dogs, you are missing out on so much. And I'll tell you right now, if you try to get overconfident with these dogs because you've been in the game 5, 10, 20 years, there will be a dog that will say, hold my beer, and they're going to try to fuck you up. I know that. I know that because it's happened to me like more than once. So, without, no pun intended, but yeah, be humble, stay grounded. Okay. Dogs don't know what money is. They don't know what your job is. They have no idea you're a trainer. They don't follow you on social media. And even if they did, they would not care. So that's about it. I know I hit you guys with a lot. I just wanted to get you on these layers of how I got here, because I never knew what I wanted to do coming out of high school. All my friends had all these plans, and I was just like, yeah, I guess I'll just graduate and just party forever. Right. And I'll just get jobs, and hopefully one day something clicks. And this happened. Penny happened. I used to look at my concussion as the end of something, but it was actually the beginning of something. I literally had to hit my head to get on the right path. Penny, meeting Jaden, doing all this stuff, finding Bree, like it was, the universe will give you opportunities, and you just have to take them sometimes and just roll with it. And I did, and I'm so thankful I did. And that if you take anything from this, work hard, find something you love to do, and work hard at it. Think about something you want to do for free for the rest of your life, and go ahead and you do that thing while you keep your job, and just do that thing. And it will turn into something. And even if it doesn't, who cares? Who cares? But if you're out there chasing money, you're going to be chasing forever. But that's all I got. I have more to talk about on the next lecture, but I don't know how long this has been, but that's it. That's all I got.
Thank you so much, John. What an
Yeah.
incredible story. I have allowed people to unmute themselves. So if anybody wants to hop
Yeah.
on here, share some feedback with John, ask a question, you're getting a lot of love in the comments here. Jenny says, so thankful for John Flores. Sierra said, haha, so true. She was just relating to something you were sharing. Debbie says, thank you so much for sharing. Your story is so inspirational and motivating. Jess says, thank you, John. So good. Olive loves you.
Yes.
Kim
likes
says,
me. Olive tolerates me. Okay.
Yeah, Olive tolerates you, but he loves Eleanor.
Yes, he loves Eleanor. So it's just
I love the honesty there. I mean, personally,
Yeah,
if I could just like share a little feedback, like
yeah,
something that I really gathered from your lecture today, is honestly just like bringing more honesty about the process to the table. And, when you were talking about like the first time you shared about like a big fight that you had and how that actually really gave a lot more people permission to see that like shit doesn't always go perfectly, like regardless of the
yep,
skills and the setups and like all the things. And like I can say for myself, like I definitely don't share all the shit that goes wrong. It's definitely a more vulnerable piece of like uh it's just a more vulnerable piece to share, but I can see like just how much value there is in that. And so you're really inspiring me to just like bring even a little bit more of that online that could like potentially help people, like it's not like I would be losing out on anything. It just would allow
right,
people to actually have more of my intimacy and more ways to connect because like it's the shit that's going wrong that's brought us all together anyways. Like
yeah.
we're seeking out these trainers and support and stuff because things do not go perfectly. And so like you just bring such a realness to the scene that I really appreciate. And I think it's just like so valuable for people to see too.
Thanks. There's a lot of people out there that think I have like the best husky in the world, and I think that shit's hilarious. Like, I get messages, they're like, "Wow, your husky's so calm. Always looks so calm." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's because it's not a video; it's a picture." Like, but but it is. Yeah, it's people think I have, I have kids, and it's just kumbaya here all the time. It's utter chaos.
Totally.
It is utter chaos here, and we've just learned to be calm in the chaos. But I think having kids has helped me help clients with kids. Having a husky now has helped me understand people with huskies,
Yeah.
right? Like, it's before I had a husky, before I had kids, I knew all the answers. I knew exactly how to take care of kids before I had kids. Now I don't know
Yeah,
shit.
me too.
Yeah.
I
I'm like,
I
I'll
have
never let my kids do
completely
that.
I
Yeah.
have completely stopped teaching people about how they should be working with dogs and their children because it's not my fucking lane. I don't have any context to share. Like I can imagine what I think it might be like, but I don't know. It's not
Yeah.
my business.
It's hard.
It's
It's
not my
just like, yeah,
place.
man. I'm like, I don't know. Some clients, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes just do your best. Like, you might just have to manage. You might have to manage your life 80% of the time and be okay with management before you start looking at progress,
Sure. One of my
But
what
go ahead.
I was gonna say, one of my coaches shared this quote about like anything that you want to stay alive requires maintenance. Nothing can
Yep.
stay alive without maintenance. So like anything that you want to stay real and alive, like you have to put effort into. Nothing can
Yeah.
survive on its own.
No, nothing. And it just, you're not going to have calm energy all the time. You're not going to not take things personal. Like, it's the bounce back. It's not staying back there. It's understanding, like, oh, I lost my shit. My bad. I'll try not to let it happen again. But go have the moment, be mad. Like, it's okay. I think people see us online. They're like, wow, they seem so calm all the time. I'm like, man, that's a 90-second video. Like, I
Totally.
was like,
Where I
have,
was
have
like,
a talk with my kids and my wife. They'll be like, dang, that is crazy.
totally. I feel like this would be a funny moment to share. When I was interviewing one of our more recent employees, Madeline, we were on our walk together, like our trial walk, and I got into a verbal altercation with a lady in the neighborhood. Like I'm always like so zen and like I
Yes.
hired her because she stayed so cool in the moment, but I have a 3-minute video of me telling this lady to just fuck right off.
Right? Yeah.
There's honestly there's pieces of it that like I think would actually be valuable to share. The video is actually kind of funny. It feels like now I can look at it and laugh. It was very
Yeah.
intense.
Not in the moment, though. You were heated.
I was mad. I was
Yeah.
ready to have someone else take my dogs, and she and I were just gonna go toe to toe. And she's like
Yeah.
some 60-year-old lady. We all have our moments, But
We
yeah,
all
I
do.
think
And it's
it's
okay.
just yeah, we're human. There,
Yeah.
you have to experience the opposite of calm to actually know how to get to calm. You got to go to the opposite
Yeah.
end of the spectrum and
Oh,
experience
yeah.
the chaos and all the discord.
Yep. I agree. I agree.
Oh man, crack me up. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to share into the space before we close out our call here? Oh, what a funny call. I love your
Yeah.
storytelling. Like, I just get a lot from the way that you tell stories, and again, just like pulling from that realness, like you have such a flow and such a ease. It's really cool to witness, and I
Yeah,
appreciate you
there's a
bringing
thank
your
you.
energy.
Yeah, I remember when Jaden came up to me. We were in Chino Hills, and that's like it's a pretty rich area, right? And I was like, I told her you're too white to hang out with me this long. We don't know each other. I go,
You need
it's
a
gonna get
permission slip.
yeah. I was like, it's gonna get real weird. You just need to go. She's staring at me
Oh,
like, what is it? What do you mean? But now she's my daughter. You know?
hilarious. I love that. Oh man. Well, thank you so much, John. Thank you everybody for
Yeah.
coming and attending.
Yeah. Thanks everyone. I appreciate you all and everyone that's here on the PAC Summit, that's part of the PAC Summit. I apologize for not attending your lives. I see you all on here. I'm like, what a dick, dude. You didn't even show up for this. Like, I apologize from the bottom of my heart. But thanks for coming. Thanks for showing up. Appreciate all of you, Jenny, Jason, everybody.
Amazing. Thanks, John. Have a good rest of
Yeah,
the
no
evening,
problem.
everyone. Next lecture is starting at 6 o'clock with Maria and Isla from Wolfpack. We'll see you guys then.
Awesome. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.